Good evening. The special meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Angela, our mission statement, please.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to do our ceremonial oath for our newest member, Candace Cunningham.
So this is more ceremonial. Candace was officially sworn in on June 14th, the day after the last board meeting. All her paperwork has been submitted to the elections office, so she is official. But for the listening audience and the public, it's good that they hear the oath. So if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of this state.
and the Constitution of this state.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education
Of Richmond Community Schools, Macomb and St. Clair Counties, Michigan,
of Richmond Community Schools in Macomb and St. Clair County,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Okay, Angela, could you do roll call, please?
Yes. Deb?
Here.
Sherry is absent with notice. Danielle? Here. Candace? Here. James is absent with notice. And Margaret will be late with notice. And I am present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have our first presentation of the evening.
So we're going to do the general fund FY22 final budget. So I will turn it over to Tammy Shadd, our business director.
Okay, one of the things we have to do in the public hearing is to disclose the debt and operating millage rates for the upcoming school year. They'll be the proposed budgets for the 22-23 fiscal year. And then we have to discuss those budgets. And at the same time, we'll also review the 21-22 amended budget finally. So if you recall that on June 13th, you approved the 2022 millage rate request. So to summarize that, for general fund operations, we are requesting 17.9244 mils. It's the same operating millage as last year. It was a rollback number last year. We have not had to roll it back further, so it remains at 17.9244. And basically what it means, because of the formula the state uses, they assume we collect 18 mils locally, and then they apply, we reduce that from the foundation and our per student and our enrollment. From the foundation and enrollment. And so we'll lose $13,144. That's not a huge number. 13,000.
Okay.
For debt, we're requesting the same millage as last year, again, at 6.95 mils. The debt millage is used to pay for principal and interest on our debt and any fees that we pay to the banks that pay the bonds for us, and then any taxes that are rebated. So for the debt fund, we'll raise $4.2 million in operating revenues to cover our debt costs, which will be just under $4.2 million. So that summarizes our millage rates. So I can move on to the next thing. As Mr. Walmsley has pulled up for us, he's pulled up the resolution that is the final amendments to the budget for the 21-22 year. February amendment reflected general fund revenues of $19,800,000. We're now projecting total revenues of $20,452,000. If you look at each category, local revenue increased about $73,000, which includes an increase of about 5,000 gate receipts. Interest earned on delinquent property taxes has increased, but we've also had to record our bank interest and fees a different way. We used to net our bank interest with our bank fees. For cash flow purposes, we're not supposed to do that, so we broke out our interest separately. So now that is an increase in our revenues, our interest revenue, and later on when I'm discussing expenditures, you'll see an increase in bank fees. There's also an increase in our projected child care revenues of about $31,000, an increase of our preschool tuition in about $22,000, and an increase in our GSRP sliding scale fees of about $10,000. And the sliding scale is for parents have to pay for GSRP when they don't meet the income requirements. So their income is too high, so there's a sliding scale that they pay a portion of the cost. Most of it is covered by the GSRP grant, and then they have to pay a small amount. Moving to the next page as soon as I get there. So that's local revenues. Any questions on those? Okay, moving on to state revenues. That increased almost $200,000. Part of that is additional NIPSers, which is our retirement system. The cost offsets that we budgeted at the beginning of the year into what it ends up being at the end of the year. And there's a NIPSers cost offset as well as a defined contribution payment that we received from the state. So that increased $114,000, which is the majority of the 200. We also received a grant midway through the year for benchmark assessments of $12,000. Our Section 41 bilingual education grant increased from $17,000 from what we originally budgeted. And then we had increased special education revenues of about $27,000. Vocational ed revenues increased about $10,000. And then we had some state source summer school funding that was about $10,000. For federal revenues, that increased nearly $300,000. Title I increased about $34,000. There was a question when we were doing the consolidated app about some carryover. We thought we had carryover, they weren't showing that we had any, so we didn't want to budget until we were sure. And we were right, we had the $34,000. Under the ESSER II summer school program and credit recovery, there's $79,000 in additional funding. From the American Rescue Plan Child Care Stabilization Grant, that increased about $113,000 from what we had. The total grant was $125,000, but we had put in a small amount as a placeholder until we knew the exact amount. So at this point, the exact amount is $113,000 higher than we originally budgeted. We also awarded some ARP IDEA revenues for flow-through in preschool. Flow-through was $57,000 and preschool was $8,000. And that was something that flowed through Macomb ISD, but after our February amendment. And then we added a revenue from food service. You can see there's a line just under total revenue. It says $42,000. That is for indirect costs that we can charge from food service and charge food service that money comes into the general fund. We don't always do that, but when we get to the food service fund, you'll see why we're doing it.
Can I just point out the revenue that we received for the child care? I'm sure it's on the expense side, but we gave money, that revenue, back to parents and credits on their bills. So we gave a large chunk of that money back to our families because that was one of the eligible allocations of that grant. So to help them out too.
It's not a requirement, but it's recommended that we give the refund. And we did that. So any question on revenues? Does that total up our $20,452? For expenditures, February amendment was $19,786,000. Our final amendment is $20,396. So with that, if you look under basic programs, they increased about $248,000. Under elementary, there's $83,000 for new science curriculum from our ESSER III money, and an additional $47,000 for classroom technology from our ESSER II money. And later in the budget, you'll see where that money came from. It's a shift, but it's additional expenditures under the elementary, which is a basic program. Middle school was a similar shift. We had $88,000 for new science curriculum from ESSER II and ESSER III. And then we also, where we had the revenue from summer programs from the state and the federal sources, That those expenses are shown here under basic programs, which increased by $63,000 for the state and ESSER source summer school revenues and expenditures. Moving on, there's a small change of $9,000 under added needs, and moving under pupil support services. That increased about $113,000. $46,000, if you recall, we approved a contract several months ago for speech services. So that has now been in the budget. We have a staff member on leave, and then contracted services to cover the services that we're required to give to students. In addition, we had $89,000 was shifted to teacher consultant services, which is a pupil service because of the IDEA program. It shifted from one place to another, but the increase reflected under pupil services.
Can I interject here? When we had some staff on leave and so forth, we reallocated caseloads, and so people were charged as resource room previously, but now we're charged as TC to make sure we were in compliance. It was between the February and our final account. So for that portion of the time, they were charged to the appropriate grant or the function code.
The next increase, instructional staff stayed pretty consistent. Under general administration, there was an increase of about $19,000, mostly because of the move and the remodeling that we did last year. It increased costs for some printing, copying, office supplies, and we purchased a couple pieces of additional office equipment for furniture. Under school administration, that also increased by about $18,000. We had a little bit of increased staff and benefits, or salaries and benefits. So where there's a salary increase, there's also FICA and retirement that goes along with it. And then because, again, of the moves, I believe last summer we had, and the remodeling that was done, we had some office supplies that we had to cover. Under business services, that increased about $57,000. We purchased, we used SetSeg for our ACA tracking and reporting, and for some reason, I did not have that in the original or the amended budgets, but it's in the final. We have temporary pay for payroll and benefits. We had a person on leave, and we had a person fill in, and we also had our accounts payable purchasing person left, so in the interim, we had a sub in there. So that is reflected in the business expenditures. And here's where the bank fees that we have increased, that is reflected there. And then we did have some increased property tax adjustments. So when they do an adjustment from a prior year, we have to pay that money back to the counties. And so that went up a bit. There's, I'm thinking probably during COVID, not so many board review changes and tax tribunal changes that came through this year. So that money was a little more than we usually pay. Moving to operation and maintenance of plant, that decreased about $97,000. And this is where the shifting money from ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, where when we moved it from here, where we thought we'd be buying safety equipment and cleaning supplies, we weren't using it for that any longer, so then we shifted it to the purchase of the new science curriculum. And then offsetting that, we did have a little bit of an increase in pay, like your retirement for training the new custodial staff these last couple of weeks of June. Pupil transportation reduced a little bit. Our actual pay and benefit costs were less than originally budgeted. We did increase the actual fuel costs under pupil transportation, so our costs are about $938,000 for transportation. Under central support services, it increased around $24,000, and that was marketing for preschool and GSRP. We did a server replacement, and then we had a little bit of an increase in that, some athletic program expenditures. We had some mileage to states, that type of thing. Under community services, there was another increase of about $42,000. This is where, as Brian mentioned, those child care credits to parents came. They're recorded in this section. That was about $39,000, I believe, we gave to parents as credits. And then we had some modifications to Title I and Title II grants under what is allocated to non-public schools. And then under outgoing transfers and other transactions, you can see that increased to $712,000. We originally had set-asides for bus replacement, turf replacement, laptops, and computer replacement, and then that was the $272,400 in the August amendment. Then we added some costs to bucket lift replacement, maintenance vehicle replacement, marquees and scoreboards, signage and graphics, and replacement doors to bring that up in the second amendment. And then we also added a set-aside for copiers in the third amendment, in the final amendment, as well as the purchase of replacement copiers. So we have set aside for the future and 100,000 for current, about 100,000.
So some of those set-asides, timing-wise, we are not going to be able to spend it for this year, so that's why we had allocated it, so we're moving it to the non-bond capital outlay project. So it will be there, so after July 1, we can finalize that.
So it'll be a cost out of this year's general fund, but it'll be, the money will be transferred into the non-bond capital projects for, use sooner than later to buy maybe replacement doors, the copiers, et cetera, and then some of it will sit there long-term as we wait until we need to replace those other items. So when you get to the bottom, if Brian wants to scroll back up to the first page. So in the last column, you can see we're projecting to add $55,943 to our fund balance when we close the 21-22 general ledger, we close the books for the year. Probably be higher than that. I usually budget conservatively, but this is where we're at with the final amendment. Are there any questions on the final amendment? Move to the next one. So this final amendment projects our fund balance to be $1,288,000 to start the 22-23 year, which is about 6.3% of our current revenues and about 8.99% of early warning. Now, while this has increased, you have to remember our revenues have increased as well, so that's why the percentage is kind of staying the same rather than going up since we have a higher fund balance. So,
And I think it's important that we have been very cautious on what we put in the grants to be structural costs. We have a part of accounts are still there. We have an instructional specialist that's in grant dollars, but the intent is over the next 2 years to begin phasing those out so that when the money's all gone, the ESSER money, we have no structural costs in those grants, which is really what strategic what we need to be position ourselves for.
the second resolution, as Brian has brought up, is the original general fund 22-23 budget. As presented over the last few months, it assumes a blended count of 1,537.65 students, and the state per pupil foundation allowance increasing by $300 to $9,000 per student. Additional revenues that are increasing in the Macomb ISD Enhancement Village, we're expecting an increase of about $60,000 from where we are at the end of 21-22. We've budgeted grant revenues and expenditures at the current levels. Salaries and wages are at contract levels with appropriate increases as have been approved. Benefit costs, like in retirement, reflects the change in payroll. And then it also includes, benefits also include the 2023 cap for state health insurance. That went up 1.3%. It's going up January 1, 2023, so our budget reflects that cost increase. Staffing levels, as we discussed, we have an addition of one fifth grade teaching position built into the budget, an addition of another teaching position for singleton classes, wherever they're needed, and then costs to reflect the custodial being brought back in-house for the full year. We've increased the curriculum budget as was approved at the last meeting, about $50,000. We are continuing the set-asides for replacement of buses, turf, laptops, computers, and copiers. We have a reduction of legal services from $100,000 to $60,000. We just don't usually use that much. Reduction for the one-time purchase of football helmets, and a reduction for the expiring voluntary severance payout. So when we had teachers that left, they get so many years of a severance buyout. Those are done, so we have reduced the budget for that. Other expenditures are at current levels, some of which were increased in the 21-22 amendments, like electricity, natural gas, bus fuel, that type of thing. So when you get to the bottom line, we've appropriated $20 million for expenditures, and if you can go up, Brian. You can see that we're projected to increase our fund balance by $97,983, which would bring it to $1,386,000, which is about 6.5% of our revenues, and then our early warning is about 9.25%. So that's the highlights of the general fund. I don't know if you have any questions at this point.
So Tammy made the comment that we budget conservatively. So when the audit comes in, we expect this year's FY22 budget to be a little higher. One of the things that we did in the last couple months was we increased the budget for gas prices. We basically doubled it. That double carries over into the 22-23 school year. So we may not have spent it in this year, so that would help with the fund balance when we do the final audit, but we have planned for it for next year because we don't know where gas prices are going to go, continue up, or whether they're going to come down any time in the near future. So we pretty much have doubled our fuel costs. As she mentioned, we've increased electrical now that we have air running more. This school year will be a true year of 1 year with air conditioning, assume we don't have an anomaly of extreme heat and so forth. So.
Thank you. We can move on to the debt retirement.
The last thing I will say about this is I am extremely proud that we are now in a position to be planning for the future. That is a huge accomplishment, and it took many boards, including this one, to get to that point. The community should feel really good that their dollars are being spent wisely to get to that point.
That set aside will be really nice because those things have to be replaced, and knowing where that money's coming from is huge.
Yeah. So this is a debt service fund?
Yes. So under debt, property tax collections are our major revenue in that fund. We started at $4,020,000. We're expecting $4,018,000 for the 21-22 year, and then next year, with the increase in taxable values, we're expecting that to be just under $4.3 million. Delinquent taxes and interest income about the same. Had to reduce interest income, but I expect that maybe next year's way feds are hiking interest rates, that might go back up. Under expenditures, if you go to the next page, it lists what we have to pay out for principal and interest. You can see our principal is pretty steady. We're at $2,350,000 for this year, going to $2,495,000 next year. And then the interest payments are also pretty consistent, down a little bit. We're at $1.755 million this year, and we'll be at $1.686 million next year. Again, the taxes abated, you can see, went from $2,000 to $5,000. Again, that's, I believe, because more activity on those tax reviews and tax tribunal changes. And then our fees are pretty consistent. I will say we've paid off 2 bonds. We paid off the 2010 and 2014. And then we will be adding the 2022 bonds for this 22-23 fiscal year. When you go back to the top, you can see that our fund balance is projected at $286,000. We'll be using about $87,000 this year, and that's okay. We can't have too much money in that fund. We can only can't exceed what our debt obligations are going to be for the next 12 months. So we're okay. And next year we're planning to put in increase it by $97,000. That's what our projection is. Any questions on that? And the next fund is our food service fund. This is going to be very different this year because of the universal free meals that we've been able to offer this year through the federal government. And next year we're back to charging students for meals. So 2 things we expect to happen is that we expect our sales to go down, and our reimbursement rate is definitely going down. Under the pandemic, they gave us a higher reimbursement rate per meal, and that's going to go back down to the normal rate. Plus, I believe our number of meals will go down. I'm hoping not too far, but I do expect that when people have to start paying for their meals, that you may have some lunches coming back in. For this year, food sales projected at $98,800, which is mostly kids buying second lunches, and then next year we'll be actually getting money in for first lunches, $243,000. State reimbursements we have about the same because that's part of the 31A program. Federal reimbursements, you can see it's $871,000 this year and going down next year to a more traditional $214,000. These are kind of shot in the dark. We really don't know how far where our participation is going to go, but I think it's reasonable. USDA commodity, there's a revenue and expense that are about the same. Those are at $34,008. And if you go to the next page, it brings our revenues to $1,055,000 this year and down to $543,000 next year if we go to a more traditional year. If you go to the next page, Brian. So we started out the year with salaries and benefits at 339. We're expecting them to be about 341 when we close the books. And next year, we're thinking if our meals are less, we may have less hours for our staff. So we put those down to just under 326,000. Food costs, we're at 342,000 for this year. And next year, we're reducing that to 170,000. Same with paper that we go with along, paper and cleaning and supplies, 37,000 for this year, 17,000 for next year. Other purchase services at 55,000 and 22,115. And then we also, if you look, there's a capital outlay line for next year at 100,000. I'll explain that in a minute. But that's a new line for us to replace some additional equipment in food service, and I'll explain why. USDA commodity, the same revenue expense, 34.8, and it brings our total estimated expenditures to 862,000 roughly for the final budget, and about 717,000 for next year's budget. And if you go back up, Brian, to show the fund balance. So for this year, we're starting the fund balance at starting it at 177,000. We're projecting to put in 194,000 from this year to increase it to 371,000. We cannot exceed more than 3 months worth of operating expenses as fund balance in this fund. We will probably get a letter sometime next winter from the state saying you have too much fund balance, and then we'll have to explain how we're going to reduce the fund balance, and that's where that 100,000 in equipment comes in. But you can also see we're going to expect lower revenue, so that will also take care of part of that excess. So when you get to next year, we're starting at 371,000, planning to use 174,000. Hopefully it'll be less than that, but taking that to about 197,000 at the end of next year. Any questions or anything to add, Brian, on food service?
Just two things. Tammy mentioned the equipment. We're also talking about the food service vehicle, replacing that vehicle, and then having the general fund purchase the previous vehicle for operations, because you can't, if it's purchased with food service, it's got to be solely used for food service. So that will give us a third vehicle. So you have the truck that's in the general fund set aside that we had planned for, because the truck and with the plow needs to be replaced. It's beyond its usefulness and life expectancy. And then you have the van for operations, custodial, and then you'll have the food service, and then the equipment. And there's a small, on the payroll, there's a small stipend our food service received when we were doing universal feeding for all students. They got a small additional amount. Not having that next year, that stipend goes away for that, because we'll be back to more normal numbers.
And the last fund is our Student School Activities Fund. And this is a new fund that we're required to track because of how the audit needs to be presented. So for this year, we can see revenues are expected around 228,000. So what we do is we take our actual revenues and actual expenditures of the internal activity funds, right, for the class of 2024, the athletic programs, the tennis team, golf team, bowling team, robotics, and all the elementary green clubs, middle school, and concession stand. All of that is considered internal activity funds. We have a lot of them. So we total up how much revenue received in those accounts this year, and then that becomes our revenues for the budget at 228,000 for both this year and next year. We really don't know where we're going to be next year, but this is a good estimate. And then if you go down to the next page, Brian, thank you. It shows the expenses, and again, this is money that has come out so far this year, about 204,000. So we're just continuing that into next year. So if you go back to the first page, thank you. You can see that we're increasing our fund balance from 197,868 by 24,500 for this year, taking it to 222,368, and then the same for next year, taking it to 246,860. That one's pretty easy. Any questions on it?
And this is funds that all the groups raise and then put out, whether it's NHS, as Tammy said, or the tennis team collects money and pays out for a uniform or a trip. The first grade field trips, they collect money from parents who go on a field trip, and then we issue a check. That's what this account is for. And there are dozens of when you get the budget, these are the ES, MS, and HS account numbers that you're seeing in the claims and accounts.
You're all set? I thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Any comment from the board or any discussion? Okay, we're going to move on to our public comment section. Any member of the public may address the board at this time. Please sign in and state your name. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Being no comments, being no further business, the board will adjourn at 7 o'clock. I'm going to go right in. Okay, good evening. At this time, the regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Angela, our mission statement, please.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Thank you. Roll call.
Deb?
Here.
Sherry is absent with notice. Danielle?
Here.
Candace?
Here.
James is absent with notice. Margaret? Here. And I am here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm looking for, before we do our motion for agenda, we just need to make one correction. On item number 14, it is not 8H, it's 8E. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
And do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have, I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. Mr. Walmsley?
It gave you a revised agenda personnel report. Richard Vandekar, who was the middle school cook, resigned at the end of the school year. There's several new hires in the packet. I don't believe, Marissa? She is here. She is our new first grade teacher, so you want to stand up so the board can say hello to you and welcome you. We have Emily Pareto. Oh, there she is, I didn't see you. She is our resource room teacher, so welcome. Bradley Tilton wasn't able to be here, is our new bus driver. Carly Critchett is over here. She is a middle school math teacher. I think that's all the new hires. So we also have Megan Lazari, which is the art teacher at the middle school. Richard Dennison, who is a new custodian for the district. Kayla Guinea, who is a new custodian for the district. Glenn Heitzman, who is the general maintenance custodian. John Coleman, who is the custodian for the district. And Cheyenne Warden, is another custodian that was hired for the district. So from the new hires on custodians, we still have one position available. We have a gentleman who is, we're working out the details, so if he accepts it, we'll be fully staffed and still be looking for substitute custodians.
That's great.
So if you know anybody, we are still looking. I'd like to introduce Preston Trend. He would be appointed as, or moved to the Director of Athletics, Facilities, and School Safety. He was currently a chemistry teacher at Richmond High School, so he is started in this position. Just to give the board a little background on that one, we did many screener interviews. We brought several people back to do a second round. We had custodial representation, athletics representation. We weren't able to get, the ISD was going to send our school safety consultant, but something came up at the last minute to get that representation. And Preston has a lot of the qualities, and he's hit the ground running already. We have started with the custodians training and so forth, and starting to work out some of the things that needed to be completed with the transition from the previous director. So welcome. And then I have...
Outstanding.
Oh, okay. And then the only other thing is I didn't have any errors brought to my attention in the minutes, but I did notice it today. It said vote, and I put COT, C-O-T, so I will correct the spelling error on that. I don't know, I just missed, oh geez. Chair just went down. Anyways, so I will correct that for the official minutes, but I had no other questions that were brought to me as far as, so I am excited that we've got this many hired. We still have several that we're hiring, but the team is working very hard to fill them, those positions.
Thank you. Any other discussion? from the
Yeah,
board?
can I just ask the question then? I'm assuming then after tonight's meeting, Mr. Trent's teacher's job will be posted, or how is to
I
fill
believe-
that? How is that
Did
working?
we already posted Trent, Preston?
No.
No, we will
Doing
post.
Custodian training, so I haven't had a chance to.
We will post that, yeah, that job, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session for a student discipline hearing.
Pursuant to Section 8B of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the student's parent and/or guardian, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline of a student whose identity is known as student 062722.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Angela, was it?
Yes.
Thank you. All those, I'm sorry, yeah, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Upon returning, we will continue with our agenda. Okay, we are going to return back in open session at 8:08. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our presentation regarding our instructional spotlight. Ms. Sarah? Okay.
Hi, so at the very beginning of this year, our first instructional spotlight was around the approval and looking at the brand new STEAM K-5 program. So I thought, as the last board meeting of the year, that we could revisit to see what exactly went on this year, and thanks to your vote of the approval, what the kids got to experience because of that. So as you know, we built our STEAM curriculum around 5 units. Build It was mostly a engineering type of unit. Explore It was really about the life sciences, earth science. Create It was a lot of the robotics. It was a lot of the technical type of STEM, computer science, media art, and integrating that arts integration. Solve It was their grade level assigned challenge based on themes that they would get to explore as they got to go through the different grades. And the Present It unit, which was the STEAM showcase. So can't wait to really go full-fledged and do more of a STEAM showcase, inviting community members in to do a gallery of the students' projects as they're finished with their units, and really kind of advertise that as something special that Richmond does. And of course, we have the most wonderful teacher, Ms. Durst here, who is our STEAM teacher, who helped co-create the program, here to talk about some of the great units that happened this year. And I think every single kid almost said that they loved this mission the most. I'm going to let you talk about it.
Well, it was a lot of fun too, after just get ready for this presentation, to ask children students what they liked, what they didn't like. And the pictures you're seeing right here was the second grade Rescue Minion Challenge. And they had a blast with that. It was after learning about different biomes and things, they had to, I showed a little clip of a minion that, Phil, he crashes everything, he wrecks the boat and it crashes, and then their job is to, with material supply, to create a boat that will float for at least 2 minutes without taking any water, and taking with their minion inside. So they had to work in groups of 2 or 3, and you can see some of the big smiles. They were proud of their boats that they made to float. And the best part about that was when they didn't work, right away they were like, oh, it's sunk. And then it was neat to know, what do we need to do? Well, there was a hole there, we gotta go back, build it. And then they would go back and try to figure it out, raise the size, do different things to modify it to work. So that was a really fun one. They were very, very proud of their boats that they did at the end.
And there's like really if you guys have seen the Minion movies, there's actually a YouTube video of the Minion getting stranded on the island It's a 1-minute clip that we play at the beginning of this unit so that they're all stranded on this island, and then you turn it off and you say, okay, are you gonna help the minions? They get like literally little minion figurines that they have to try to, you know, the weight. Yeah, you can kind of see the little minion right here floating. He's like, okay, I gotta try to get to the end of the ocean. So it's really fun. Here are a lot of the other projects that went on this year. So we had an air unit for first grade. They got to experiment with some parachutes. Our fifth grade, they got lost in the Amazon, and they had to do a series of different challenges. This is the shelter building challenge.
Yep, that was, so they had to work in groups. The two bottom pictures are the fifth graders that had the supplies, and they talked about what would be available in the rainforest. And some of the funny things were, well, can I use glue? I'm like, well, you're going to find glue in the rainforest. I'm not going to stick glue, so what would you have? Oh, vines, you know, leaves. So that's going to be able to stick and make it authentic for them. So we used wax paper for the leaves that they traced, and they used the straws represented sticks or pieces of wood that they would find. And they had to work together to build a frame for it, so that was a lot of fun. The little kindergartner over there that was habitats was the big one for kindergarten. It was a big theme, and so we did a paper plate diorama where they had a piece of clay and they had to put the a food source, a water source, and then their animal in the back, and then they presented their plate to their classmates. That was fun. And then up there is the parachutes with first grade. They also did, that was another second grade though, actually, that was second grade, was parachutes and paper airplanes. So they talked about aerodynamics, and that was really cool. And actually when I got observed during that lesson, and a lot of the kids were using those big terms like, the aerodynamics. Yes. So that was really cool. What's fun about this class is that you're not you're more of a facilitator. So it's like it's the mindset of them has really changed in the 4 years that I've done this. Before I'd give them supplies, and they would look at me like, "Well, tell me what to do. What do I do next? What do I?" And this is not that. So now I've seen, as years have gone by, the older students, you give them something, and they, no, I'm not going to tell them how to put together, how to solve it. That they go in and do it. Like I'll go and ask questions, things to try to get them to think of what to do. But it's just really awesome how they're able to go in and start to build on their own without the teacher standing up and lecturing all the time. So that's good.
And I'm going to let you guys read some of the quotes. The first set of quotes, we have 2 pages. These are from 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders talking about the STEAM curriculum and what lessons they enjoy and aspects of it. I'm sure you guys have seen on Facebook the macaroni derby. Literally, they get nothing but hard linguine, all different types, and they have to assemble a car, and then we got ramps, and then which car's the fastest, which car can move the furthest, and they had different challenges with literally macaroni, so it was a lot of fun.
We did have a style award because some of them were ranking. They didn't really do much, but they looked really cool, and something like that too.
And flood houses for 3rd grade with weather, the units of weather.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the 4th grade one. Luke had the 4th grade, and he had to sell Mars as a realtor.
Oh my gosh, we're showing
sell
that.
Mars to, well, you could see it's out of this world.
And the rocket challenge in that, one of my favorite pictures, it was early on in the year when that 4th grade unit did it, and you see this kid going like this, like mid-air because his rocket went the furthest. And so she had all the different pictures of the planets laid out in the classroom, and however you designed your rocket, whichever planet it got closest to on the floor was, the planet that it made it to, so that you could see this kid jumping mid-air, like, yes! And it's just like the most amazing picture of excitement from 4th grade. Here is the 1st through 2nd grade quotes.
You kind of see a lot of them use the word challenge a lot. It's challenging, and that's because it's another big word that we use. This is a challenge. Everything was always a challenge, and sometimes you might get a little bit frustrated, but you just do your best to keep going at it. So they realize that things can be challenging and difficult, but also fun at the same time, even though you might have got a little frustrated and had to go back and rework. But
lots of great perseverance being taught, and reflection on their practice, and being able to, go back and fix their designs and make it better each time. And something that Anne has said to me was some of the students' feedback was, I didn't have enough time. And that's like the most heartwarming thing when a student says, I don't have enough time in this class. I don't have enough time doing this project. I don't have enough time. And it just shows like their excitement and their enthusiasm for STEM side, for that area. Okay, so what's the future for this? So Anne is actually also, she taught last year for the virtual, and this year she's teaching our STEM literacy camp. It's a 2-year-old camp. So this is the second year that we've done it. It's the first time we've done it with students in person. So it's been really exciting. They get to build their own forts, and then they actually get to go inside and read inside the forts, and they get to build their own water slides. There's just different units within it. So that's really exciting that we're launching that for our grades 1st through 3rd. So we're actually running a large section of that. We actually have 3 full classes for that. It is our most popular class, is the STEM literacy. And I think because of the STEM program from you, that they've already known to love it. They see the word STEM, they're like, sign me up for summer school, let's do this. Something else very exciting is we were asked by the MISD, are you interested in launching in all Macomb County this Girls STEM Camp? And of course we said, well, yeah, of course we are. So it's going to be held at the high school robotics room. It's the week after summer school lets out for 5th and 6th grade girls. And of course, Misters is teaching that too. Just went through her training and all sorts of fun stuff.
I learned how to solder.
We have a box of power tools over
Sign
there.
her up for robotics.
Yeah, really.
It'll be a lot of fun. The theme is tinkering toys, and it's all about using assistive technology toys and learning about students with disabilities and how they actually rely on those toys and that technology to be able to function and to be able to have fun and immerse themselves like children do. So they actually get to break apart toys, learn their functions, learn how they work, and then they get to assemble their own assisted technology toy. And what's great is we're going to open up a gallery for the community to be able to come in and look at the inventions from the girls, and also we're actually going to be able to give back to our own community and actually give out these toys to children in need.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, it's pretty neat because what they're going to learn is see that a toy fire truck, for instance, say that lights up and no sound. But if you need assistive technology, you might not be able to use that toy like everyone else does, like how to be able to not be able to turn that small switch, or so they add a button to it, and it's so that all the students has this big button, and then the toy does what it needs to do. So it kind of shows the girls too how, and the cost for something like that, an assistive technology toy is a lot more expensive than regulars, which are already expensive as it is, and so they kind of get that feel for what that's like, and then they do have to make their own prototype. They call it fast design build. They'll make a prototype of some kind of assistive technology, and then they have to put a board, give it a slogan, and give it a name, and then present that out to their peers too. So it's all revolves around assistive technology.
And we also know that women in science are underrepresented. There's only about 19% of women actually in the STEM fields right now. So one of the other pros of this program is it's all promoting women in science. So we have obviously Misters who's teaching the class. We also have women guest speakers to come in on the last day and actually do a panel of what they do involving in the STEM field to be able to answer their questions. We have female high school volunteers that are all around helping and inventing and tinkering and being able to do these things with real power tools and machines and things like that, so they can see themselves in those careers. And we do have to close. This is the lesson that you were just saying. A real estate from a different planet. And just to show you how amazing this program is, and I can't say enough wonderful things about you, Mr. So thank you for all of your work and everything that you've done for this program for the kids of Richmond, because they are changing their mindsets and they're getting to do things that not a lot of places offer. So thank you so much. And just to show the amount of creativity that children get with this project, we have one for us to watch. And it is so amazing, and you guys are going to love it. So.
Thank you much. Next move. The new space real estate is encouraging you to take advantage of an opportunity that is out of this world and purchase your new place on the most beautiful planet in the universe, Saturn. Feeling cramped on Earth? Well, that will be a problem on Saturn. With a diameter of 72,367 miles, Saturn is 10 times the diameter of Earth, giving you more space to build a bigger family, home, and future. Saturn, the days are shorter, but the years are longer. With a 10-hour and 33-minute rotation, you will have shorter school and work days, and you will choose to stay through the day and stay away from that. And while Earth is run in 365 days, it takes Saturn 29 Earth years to orbit. So that would mean less birthdays, keeping you younger longer. The most beautiful planet in our universe. With over 1,000 rings and 82 moons, you will never get tired of the view. The atmosphere in Saturn is made up mostly of hydrogen and helium, with temperatures ranging from negative 280 to 26 degrees Fahrenheit. While the toxic atmosphere and very cold temperatures do not support human life, we are developing safe housing, transportation, and comfortable spaces to allow you to enjoy life on this wonderful planet. As Saturn is 1.2 billion kilometers from Earth, with current spacecraft technology, it will take 8 years for you to arrive. So reserve your place on Saturn today and enjoy a long ride on our luxurious rocket to your new place in space. Call me, Ellen New, at New Space Real Estate. Call 800-123-SPACE.
That was fabulous.
Wow.
That was so funny. Students got to choose how they want to present it with the realtor's twist. They can do a diorama, they can do a poster, they can do a video. So there's all sorts of, it just shows the creativity that they could do to show their mastery of what they learned about the planets and the solar system and all that kind of thing. So it's great.
So thank you so much, Mr. for everything. And thank you to the board for approving this program. You got to see what it did firsthand for the students this year, and I can't wait to see what more it does. So thank you.
So Ann, what is your thought about the program? Is needs improvement? Where's,
well, you know,
was it good?
Oh,
Is
that's
it,
the wrong.
Well, it definitely always has room for improvement because,
Okay.
I found that when we went through it, there were some lessons that I may need to just shorten a little bit, and some, because the theme about saying I ran out of time, because some of the ones at the end, the bigger things, they needed more time for those. So it was conversations with fifth graders who were gave me some constructive criticism, they're really good about it. We need more time for this one because, and I was like, okay, and I'm writing my notes down. And so those kinds of things that I would like to tweak on that, to the time frame.
all the parts, all the pieces you needed came in a kit? Is that what we, like what they did when they built stuff and things?
Yeah, recyclable things, and some of the things were purchased for budget to that, but some were going to recycle, I don't know how many toilet paper tubes I probably had, Kleenex boxes.
Tissue boxes.
So I mean, lots of stuff like that. So,
cool.
So right now it seems like going forward, it's pretty good. So.
And we did use our Title IV budget, some of it, to be able to help launch the items, like the ramps and things like that for the launching of the new STEAM program.
Very cool. Very, very nice.
So how did the badges go?
The badges, we didn't be able to do those this year, so that's our plan for
During the badge.
to incorporate that for this coming year.
I would just like to echo what Renee said, 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years now, you came to me with an idea and wanted to do it, and you took a leap out of the classroom, which for many teachers is their safe zone, they've done it. You entered a world of starting from scratch and nothing existed, you paved the way, and it is really impressive to see what the kids do. And I looked at that girl's, Lenu's video there. All those facts could easily be taught in a class, read from a book, but you're probably not going to remember. This is a hook for her and for many of the kids to remember the content. And just the vocabulary alone that you hear is from a first kindergarten all the way up to fifth grade is just remarkable. And it is truly often represented Richmond as many crown jewels. This is another jewel in our crown of many things that we have to be proud of. So thank you for taking that leap out of your classroom.
Thank you for approving the program and allowing me to do it. It's kind of like being grandma gets to play. I love it.
But we all recognize it's a lot of work in preparation and getting kids there. It's a lot.
It's been very enjoyable.
I encourage you to keep asking for that recyclable stuff too. I mean, I have more than just tissue boxes. Alcohol jugs.
From take them. I know, no turn away. So.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, our next item on the agenda is our district-wide copier replacement proposal. Mr. Wanzel?
So as we've talked about in the previous board meetings, our copier fleet is aging. It was purchased by the board, approved November of 2015. It was installed in January of 2016. And when you look at the amount per usage, and this is just a 4-year snapshot, in 4 years, we have made 10,934,128 black and white copies.
Oh my God.
And 834,496 color copies. So when we purchased this copier fleet, one of the things that we added was a program called Paper Cut. And basically, it's a double step to make sure what you send to the printer is really what you want to print. Instead of printing things off and then realize, I made an error on it, these go in the garbage, I reprint them, etc. And I know the board at that time, and many of you were sitting on that board at some point, there was some staff that were a little frustrated with the dual step. It wasn't like they had previous. But what I think is impressive is when you look at the numbers for that paper cut, we have saved total printing pages over the course since August of 16 through June 24th of 22, 6,653,458 sheets of paper, which equate to, when you double side that, 12,570,000 copies. Or of that, 343 color copies, a little over 12 million. So when you look at copy paper, maintenance of copiers for that quantity, we have actually saved $261,000 worth of resources, which easily paid for the copiers plus this copier purchase that's tonight, just in savings alone. What they equate that is there's 45,000 jobs that did not get printed because either they were sent double or it was an error, or people sent it to the printer and forgot about it and just didn't print it, which equates to almost 800 trees that we have saved in our planet, 84,000 kilograms of carbon CO2 that was saved, and about 5.2 million hours of light bulb usage in this course. So with that, when you look at the age of our materials or our fleet and you look at the number of copies, they are beyond their life expectancy.
And that's with partial school years, right?
Correct. You can see in there,
COVID,
you've got,
so it would have been even more.
You got a low we dropped between pre-pandemic and shutdown pandemic. We dropped to 293. The year we were kind of back and forth, and we had virtual students, so teachers had to rethink sending things through Schoology and so forth. We saved another, but then this year we went back up. Year over year, we went increase about 560,000 copies just in black and white for this year alone. And you can see there are some various printers. When we did the first copy budget or copier printer, one of the concerns that was brought out was a high volume copier in every building. And so we did purchase that. But what we found is the high volume copiers were the least being used. Some of it is strategically where the buildings chose to put them. At one point, we shifted copiers around to rotate to try to balance and get another year out of them. So we looked at, okay, this machine in this spot is a high, let's move it to a low volume area and move over low volume here. I got a lot of pushback because I moved machines between buildings. Well, I'll never do that again. But in what we're proposing is we would be rotating machines within the building. So over the course of the 4 years, conceptually, they'd all have the balanced numbers. So before you tonight is a copier purchase. Rather than doing high volumes, we converted them to what we believe, based on usage, would be appropriate. So we would have 17 black and white copier printer. Now remember, this is our print solution, so this is where students print in for stuff and so forth. They are about 1,000, they have storage for 2,000 sheets. They have a stapler. You can print from either sending it via email, you can print off a USB. Again, it will have paper cut. This is the look of the machine. The actual swipe card button is actually built into the machine, so it's not that little black box. In the office areas, we're reducing the high volumes to the color printers that have the capability of faxing. And also now we added hole punching to these, so that if you have you need to make copies that you want to have hole punch. And you can also add in this one, they are saddle stitch finishers, so that stitching in the middle, but if you wanted to stitch, like if you're making little booklets or journals and so forth, it allows this copier to use it. The other copy is staple. This copier, and our current copiers do, you can buy banner paper that's 12 inches wide and it will actually print banners. I don't know if anybody who's ever taken advantage of that feature on the copier. This would have 5 years of paper cut support. Our cost per copy is 0.0033 cents for black and white, which is what we paid in 2016. So there's no increase in that cost. Our color copy cost is a little over 3 cents a copy. The total cost of this, adding these two features, is $120,667.84. There's a lot of documents that are in your backup. It just basically shows that this is a bid pricing. We would continue going with the same company we've had, Millennium Business Solution. I believe when you look at the totality of it, we've had excellent service from them. Response services that have been very good. The last year has been a little more challenging because we've had more breakdowns and service maintenance costs of our equipment. But so this positions us with this one-time purchase of using the dollars, as Tammy explained, in the not transfer to non-bond capital projects. So that in 4 years, as you're putting $30,000 away each year, in 4 years, you now have approximately the dollar value you need to replace your copier fleet every 4 to 5 years, so forth. So I would recommend that in the action and the board approve that action. Again, just the savings alone in what we haven't printed and the paper cut is dramatic.
I'm sorry, Brian, did it have the staplers with it?
Yes, they have this. It has a stapler in it, in both the black and white and the color. The color has the ability to saddle stitch, or saddle staple, I think is what they refer to it in. So you can do booklets. Any other questions?
No, I just remember when you moved them.
So this will all come once they're installed. They are very similar to the existing copiers. I mean, other than they're going from gray to black. The screen is going to be pretty much the same screen, but this will also come with training for staff just to reiterate what you can and can't do on it and access.
And your card.
And your cards will work as they do now.
Good.
So we'll be giving Eric something to do over there to tie these in with the IT so they work. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is our bond update. Mr. Walmsley?
I don't have much to update other than the summer projects are well underway. The drive in front of the middle school has been taken out. We had to cut some trees down because of the where the position of that new drive in the middle school, but we will be replacing trees in that area. The irrigation system line for the new varsity field was run today. A couple things we've run some hiccups in. Number one, we have the scoreboard in the JV baseball field. We had to move it over because of the gas and AT&T Frontier lines that are running back there. So we didn't have to reroute those. So we shifted a little more towards center field. Sitting behind home plate and looking at it with the sun coming down on your right-hand side, you still should be able to view this scoreboard with no problem. We have some the varsity baseball field, which they will start tomorrow. We're hosting a BWAC Blue Water All-Star game. So they'll start that field, tearing down the old fence after that. But there's a water supply where they have the current dugout is, we got some minor things we got to figure out and work through. The one thing that we are, the current varsity field, we were not replacing the dugouts. We were using existing dugout. Some of the cement in there is cracked. What we found was when they built those, and I don't know who built them, normally when you build a block wall, you put it on a foundation and then you pour the slab around it. It was built on top of a slab, so there is no foundation for those rocks. So we are looking at what options we have to fix that area, because where the fence, the new fence goes up, which is pretty much in alignment where it's at, it's a narrower space than the other dugouts. It's no different than what they currently have between the fence and the dugout to get in. But the cost to, if we wanted to go down the road of replacing those dugouts, has significantly increased. So we are meeting to figure out what our options are for that one. There is a basically a 17-foot storm drain that's in that field. When you take off the drain, it goes 17 feet down. We were worried that the fencing post was going to hit that, because where it is on the drawings and where it actually is aren't always in the exact same spot until they actually get out there and do the work. But it runs between third base line and the dugout. This huge drain that goes from the high school down to there's a huge catch basin under this traffic circle, and it catches in. So we don't have to move the fence, because that was our problem. If we had to move the fence, we got to adjust the dugouts. But there's some issues at the dugout that I may be coming to you or communicating to you that we're going to have to make some adjustments, because there's some on-site issues. The other aspects are moving. The student parking lot is going. They should be getting ready to stripe this back parking lot very soon. I saw today that they were to push the dirt back and kind of finish the edges of it, so they should get ready to stripe it. But other than that, that's it.
Thank you. Okay, public comments. Any member of the public may address the board at this time. Please sign in and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments?
Of course, I always have something I forgot to say that I want to say something. I just wanted to add on to the STEAM presentation that we're making a name for ourselves with the ISD, because Mark Muslin, who is the STEM coordinator at the ISD, gave kudos to me about our district having 2 years in a row. We have the 2 young women that had their ideas in Macomb Adventures, so he was very impressed with that. And then the second thing, he was talking about our district being one of the ones that other districts who are trying to start programs to come to our and see what we're doing, to come see us, what we're doing to learn. And also that Mark also is wanting to collaborate with our curriculum director to get other schools to jump on board to help them with our STEM program. So we're definitely making a name for ourselves, and the decision to do this has been a positive one. So.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. At this time, we have superintendent and legislative update. Mr. Wormsley?
I have no legislative update. We, along with every other district, is waiting on the legislators to pass and the governor to sign the FY 2023 school aid budget. Rumor has it they're ready to move. I don't know if they want to get ready for the 4th and do something before they leave, but as of this time, we're still just based on our assumptions. District stuff. First of all, I'd like to send my condolences to the Dushan family. One of our secretaries lost her husband, and very tragic, a life taken very much too soon. So our hearts and prayers go out to their family during this difficult time. I'd like to recognize our Richmond trap team. After our last board meeting on the 13th, they competed at the state competition on June 18th. Where they placed 6th out of 61 teams at the state competition. So they are heading on to, many of them are heading on to the national competition, which is, I believe, Minnesota, July, I think it's in 2 weeks after the 4th, but it's in July. But what's really impressive is when you look at the number of trap students that we have, we had 10 of them made the 22 trap all-state team. Brody Montematis, I'm probably going to screw up some of these names, so I apologize. Corey Cook, Aiden Mueller, Nicholas Palumbo, Francesco Collin, Nathan Gignac, Anthony Ellis, Lillian Keller, Benjamin Wilkie, and Evan, I think it's Gruey, G-R-E-W-E, Grewe?
Grewe, grew.
Grewe. Okay. They have several numbers, and when you look at their ranking on this, actually the Michigan High School trap team, many of ours are in that top quadrant for what they scored, and just looking at, I'm not an expert in trap, so I went a couple years ago before COVID to watch them out in the States. It is pretty impressive what they have to do and their accuracy. And what I really love about this is they're teaching these young men and women the proper way of gun safety, gun handling, and that it can be a sport. And so just very proud of them. At the May 23rd board meeting, I had shared with Tammy, the business manager, and Susan, our director, Susan Fulgham, our director of transportation, a student bus and tracking system that we're planning on implementing for the 22-23 school year. Since then, I received a couple questions from members in the community and board members regarding the security of the system that we have. I asked Tammy and the transportation director, they met with or contacted David Payne from Sylvia regarding these questions and the privacy of our student data. And so one of the things I just want to report is what they've shared with us. Savonia takes data privacy very seriously. They implement a robust cybersecurity and provide privacy measures that encrypt student data in transit, at rest, and access data. These measures are tested on a regular basis to ensure validity of services and protection. In addition, they leverage the NIST cyber security network to assist cyber risk and personal attacks for identifiable information. Risks follow the risk management process, which identify those risks, categorize the risks, selected remediation, mitigation if there is. Whenever we deal with any type of technology or the internet, there is a risk for everything. So one of the things that is important is when companies deal specifically with schools, they have to deal with the child safety acts regarding technology, and they are in compliance with that. David Payne also explained that the system matches students' names and IDs, in the software for the parents to use the Here Comes the Bus, which is the application. That's where it's shared, is in that app. It's not shared with any of their other software or outside software. So I know there's a lot of concerns, and this was talked about at the previous board meeting. So our plan as a district is there will be communication that will be going out to families, talking about the Here Comes the app, what it does as we roll it out. The process of students, how they're checked in and off the bus, how parents can opt in to download the app if they want to use that and need access. But with any app, there is a risk that, if your phone gets hacked and people get your password, especially if you use those passwords that people save in their iPhones. Sometimes people put them as contacts. That isn't always the safest way. Probably isn't with the IT guy over there. It's probably not the safest way. But there is a risk. So, but more information will be rolled out in the next coming weeks as we move forward with this system. Since our last board meeting, we have now begun summer. So I wish all the students and families a safe and happy summer. With summer just beginning, if you've been to some of the stores, you'll already see some back-to-school supplies already on the stores. So to help families, I asked all the principals to make sure before everybody left for the summer that their back-to-school supply lists were updated on the website. Oftentimes these sales go on at the end of June and July, so if parents can visit the school's website to get grade level and back-to-school general supply lists. Again, we say this every year, there might be something very specific to a classroom that a teacher requests, but you'll at least have general supply lists. Mark your calendar, the first day of school is September 6th, which is a Tuesday, which is the half day of school. September 7th is the first full day of school for students, with preschool, 3 and 4-year-old preschool starting on Wednesday, September 7th. The 22-23 school year is on the district website for those families that are planning vacation around the holidays, so they can plan appropriately. Blue Devil Days is locked in. This year, it will now go back to before school starts. For last year with construction, it was the week after school starts. So Monday the 29th is the high school, Tuesday the 30th is the middle school, and Wednesday the 31st is the elementary school. But all 3 buildings, times are from 5 to 8 those 3 days. With that, I think I've got everything.
Yes. Already looking ahead. Okay, at this time, we have items of interest from the Board of Ed. Let's start with Margaret.
I have nothing.
Angela?
I'd just like to welcome our new board member, Candace Cunningham, and I'm glad to have you as part of the team, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Danielle?
I just wanted to say Jackson's doing the summer school program, and he's complained, I was telling Renee, he's complained every day that he's had to come home. So that's a good problem to have, but it seems like I was in the lunchroom with the kiddos running around today and Thursday picking up, and they looked like they were having way too much fun. It was intense, but it's good, so I'm glad it's going well.
Good, thank you. Candace?
Same thing. My kiddos love it. Every day they come home and they want, it's like school never ended and it just keeps going. I don't know what's going to happen in a few weeks when it's over. But yeah. I want to say thank you to the board for accepting my letter of interest and interview and accepting me to the board. I'm very excited to be a part of this team and be a representative, and so thank you all for that. I do have to resort back to the Here Comes the Bus app real quick. I'm sorry, Mr. Wellesley, but I know you said that the parents can opt out of actually signing up for the app, but do the children have the option to opt out of not having the swiper at all, getting on and off the bus?
The plan right now, no, because that's how we're accounting for kids to get on the bus, should there be an issue or a safety mechanism. So I will deal with myself or the transportation, deal with those families individually, see if there's a way that we can try to accommodate as many as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask, why would parents not want their kids to be part of that, to be kept track of?
Well, it is a real-time app, meaning exact location of that child for everything, and I guess the biggest concern would be if anybody else had access to that information, which you have said that that's not true. Yeah,
Okay.
So the real time, just to recall, is a parent defines, if I live here, I basically set the parameters, whether it's when the bus gets in with 1 mile of that spot. It does not track the bus saying it's going down this road. It just tells you notification that it's within, whether it's 1 mile, 5 minutes, miles, or whatever the parent sets as the parameter.
So that the parent knows the bus is going to be home in 5 minutes. It
Correct.
doesn't track
If
the
you did it that
child
way.
every step of the way.
Where some of the other apps, it actually showed you
Where
the
the
bus
bus
drove
was
down
at.
this road, went up this road, and so forth. There were some concerns with that one. I mean, from a parent perspective, if I was running late, I know exactly where the bus, I could see how that could be beneficial. But there are some concerns also that we're telling parents, other parents whose kids are in that bus, this is where exactly the bus.
Right.
So when you think all the worst case scenarios, if we've got 2 irate moms or dads who don't get along and they're, it prevents potentially more problems. It also allows, if we had that real time, parents chasing after the bus because they want to get the kid off the bus early because they got to go somewhere, which just creates issues at the stop. So there were the 2 that we looked at. The one that we chose with this one just gives you, you can set up as soon as it leaves the school. You can be that broad enough that says the bus is on its way. It could be within 1 mile of your school from that angle. But they're both, in essence, a real time. It's just the view is a little different.
I just recommend transparency, with the parents, but I know you're building on that right now, so thank
We've got
you.
several letters that we have planned, template letters that we've gotten, already started.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank both Brian and Tammy for getting our budget together and all that's involved. I know you both have worked a lot of hours. Renee, I want to thank you too for all of our curriculum that you've done this year and pieces you've added and grants you've added. We've got a good solid budget moving forward here, and it's nice not to sit here, guys, and have to worry about making cuts. So thank you to our administrative team. I appreciate it. Okay, next item on our action items are our approval. Okay, guys, we have a lot to go.
I'm ready.
You're
I'm
gonna
ready.
read? All right, so Margaret's going to read. Okay, I'm looking for, give me a minute here. I'm looking for a motion for the general fund budget.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the fiscal year 2022 general fund final budget and fiscal year 2023 general fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion for the approval of the debt fund.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the FY 2022 debt fund final budget and the FY 2023 debt fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Looking for approval for the food service budget.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the fiscal year 2022 food service fund final budget and fiscal year 2023 food service fund original budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support. Angela?
Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the student school activity fund final budget.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the FY 2022 Student School Activity Fund Final Budget and the FY 2023 Student School Activity Fund Original Budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Do you have support?
Support.
Danielle?
Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the contract with AIS.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with AIS for the 2022-2023 school year to offer the course heavy operating equipment for which funding from the 2022-2023 general fund is authorized.
Do I have support?
Support.
Danielle?
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for approval for a contract for the City of Richmond for the television and broadcasting class.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract for shared services with the City of Richmond for the 2022-23 school year to offer the course Television and Broadcast Media 1 and 2, for which funding from the 2022-23 general fund is authorized.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of the contract with Richmond Lennox EMS Medical Tech Program.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract for shared services with the Richmond Lennox Ambulatory Services for the 2022-2023 school year to offer the course Emergency Medical Technician EMT, for which funding from the 2022-2023 general fund is authorized.
Do I have support?
Support. Angela?
Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb, aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the contract with Dick Hubar for the automotive technology course.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract for shared services with Dick Huvar Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram dealership for the 2022-23 school year to offer the course Automotive Technology, for which funding from the 2022-23 general fund is authorized.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? So roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb, aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a facility service agreement.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve a contract with Synergy Engineering for $53,298 for preventative maintenance and facility service agreement web control, for which funding from the 2022-2023 general fund is authorized as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Any discussion?
The only thing I just add is, we've done this previously, but we've used Metro Control.
Right.
We are switching because these people know our stuff. The personnel knows our equipment.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Deb, aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the district-wide copier replacement purchase.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the purchase of copiers from Millennium Business Solutions for a total not to exceed $120,667.84, for which funding from the 2022-23 general fund non-bond capital projects is authorized and presented in the attached documentation. Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb, aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a scissor lift purchase.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the purchase of a scissor lift from Bell Forklift, Inc. for a total not to exceed $18,473 plus shipping and handling fees, for which funding from the 2022-2023 general fund non-bond capital projects is authorized and presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Deb, aye. Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a board resolution for the student discipline hearing.
I motion that following a closed session, student discipline hearing, the board votes to reinstate student 062722, consistent with the attached documentation.
Do I have- Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a contract extension through August 31, 2025 between the Board of Education and the MEA Local 1.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract extension through August 31st, 2025 between the Board of Education, Richmond Community Schools, and the MEA Local 1, Richmond Education Association, as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Do I need to do your part?
Well, you have to ask for an abstention.
I do. I did this, and I was going to make myself a note. Do I have any abstaining from the vote?
I abstain because I'm related to a teacher.
Thank you. Now, do we vote again? I screw this up every time.
No, your motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Margaret.
Yep.
Okay, I am looking for a motion to go into closed session for considered materials exempt from discussion or disclosure.
Pursuant to Section 8E of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute.
Do I have support? Support. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Candace? Aye. Deb? Aye. Motion carries. When we come back out of closed session, we will just be adjourning because there will be no further business.